Hello, welcome back to Chaos Agents. I'm Sara.
I'm Becca.
And this is Chaos Agents, the show where we learn about AI where you don't have to. Close enough.
Close enough.
I got it.
They got it.
All right,
You guys get it, right?
Yeah, you understand what's going on. Should we start with our segment where we figure out what's the last thing we learned with AI?
Yes.
I didn't prepare at all. Okay, so I'm going to look.
Same.
Okay.
Let's see what I got.
The last thing I learned, I was looking into the Senate race in Texas. You're from Texas, so you might have thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to better understand, because I understand that James Tallarico, I think that's how I say his name, is being primaried against Jasmine Crockett, who I also really like. And she's currently in the House. So I was trying to understand why he wasn't running for, because he's currently on the committee. It's like some committees in the Texas House. And so my question was, why is he jumping to Senate? And what I learned was it's kind of like a strategy. It's like a numbers strategy where you can go go House, then Senate. But his team probably felt like he statistically could have a chance at the Senate, which is why they went that direction first.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Usually, like your team will do a lot of like external polling and research and stuff before launching a campaign like that to see if you have some sort of viable pathway.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, I agree. I like both of them a lot.
Yeah,
too.
it's a tough one.
Yeah. He is an interesting one too, because I feel like from a mainstream perspective, it feels like he just jumped on the scene the last 2 weeks.
I know. It's like out of nowhere.
And now he's everywhere. He's like all over my feed.
Yeah, maybe they knew that would happen. They were like, well, he's going to be all over everyone's feed. So
I mean, it might be like, I'm guessing part of that was catapulted by the Colbert thing where like, great way to get press attention to have a host say, hey, I interviewed this guy and CBS told me I couldn't air it. And then everyone's like, oh my God, I need to see what he said.
Yeah. What's he saying? It must be crazy.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What's the last thing you learned with AI?
Okay. It's very unserious. And it will reveal something you might not know about me, which is that one of my favorite movies of all time is Twister, the original.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
Of course.
Okay. Thank God. Otherwise,
it's a great one.
Otherwise, our friendship might be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
I can't explain why, but I love Twister. Like,
do you feel the same way about Twisters, or is it like Twister 2 or whatever?
Yeah, Twisters. You're correct.
Yeah.
Multiple Twisters, although, you know, there's a lot of Twisters in Twister also.
I know, you could have just called that one Twisters.
I really enjoyed Twisters, like quite a lot.
Wow.
It doesn't hold it doesn't hold the same like status in my mind as OG Twister. But I very much enjoy it. It's a fun watch.
That's great.
So my birthday was last week and I was chilling really hard on my birthday. It was a Saturday and I was like, I want to watch Twister. It's my birthday.
Okay.
I want to watch Twister for the 400th time.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. And so I was watching Twister and I was like, I've seen this movie a million times. I wish there was someone sitting next to me who knew like every detail, like behind the scenes details about the science, whatever, who's teaching me about it as I'm watching the movie. So I opened Gemini and I basically gave it that prompt. I was like, I'm watching Twister. Like, tell me like just the most interesting shit. And I'm also going to tell you like which parts I'm at in real time and like tell me interesting pieces of information about the scenes.
Yeah.
And like it did. I learned a lot.
I love that so much. That's so fun.
Let me see if I have any cool any little highlights for you. Okay, here's one. So one thing I found really interesting is if you've seen the movie, there are like scenes where the tornado is picking up like giant pieces of like farm equipment, like tractors and stuff, and like dropping it on the road
Yeah. Yeah.
in front of Bill and Joe, and they have to like swerve.
Yeah.
And you would think like, oh, they must have like CGI'd that, but
Yeah.
they didn't. They literally like picked up and tossed like a literal tractor. Now, what they did was they stripped the tractor in this particular example of like a lot of its internal machinery, so it was like much lighter. And then they constructed this like giant like slingshot thing and like launched it. And the funny thing is like the actors, like they only had so much control over like where this stuff landed. And so like in the scene, you know, the actors are like, oh shit, like, and part of that was real. Like they were like legitimately scared because they were like, this thing might like, are we gonna swerve? Are we gonna get around this thing? I thought that was wild.
Crazy.
The second cool thing
Would you, if you were one of the actors, would you have been like, oh yeah, that's chill. Totally, I trust you to slingshot I wouldn't, there's no one I would trust to slingshot a tractor in front of me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It'd be like, how can you confirm this thing isn't going to land on me? They're like, we can't.
But it's going to be cool.
But if it does, it'll be a great film.
Great.
The other thing that was kind of crazy is, you know, there's a lot of shots where there has to be like tornado style winds.
Yeah.
And you might think like, oh, they probably just got like some giant fans and stuff.
Yeah.
But that wasn't good enough for the crew. They literally set up Boeing jet engines. And like there's a scene, I don't know if you remember this, where Bill and Joe are like under like this like wooden sort of overpass ditch thing, and there's like a tornado coming around, and like the wind that is whipping through that
crazy. Yeah.
was literally from like a jet engine.
How did no one die in this movie?
I don't know. Also, that particular scene I learned created some issues in real life because it's actually really not what you're supposed to do if there's a tornado. Like, do not go hide under
I like knew that. I remember when watching the movie because I had like learned all about these things. Like, I think you're supposed to go in your basement or lay in a lay in a bathtub, but I feel like you lay in a bathtub. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, like where you really don't want to be is under an overpass because it literally creates a wind tunnel. And so they had to like put out like a bunch of like PSAs after the movie being like, but don't do this one thing.
And you might be tempted, don't take a bunch of Arduinos and hook them up to sensors.
Release them into the air. Yeah, so
cool.
Twister.
Cool. Nice. That's great. Those are un-AI related things, but they're very important.
Very important.
So today we're talking a lot about, there's been a lot, this is like old news now. This is like 2 weeks old. So it's like so old news. No one's interested.
It's ancient.
We talk a lot about personal agents in today's episode. And I told you I have a hot take for you.
Oh yeah. Can't wait.
This is my hot take. Okay. Here's the thing. I think we have reached AGI, but we will never know it or admit it.
Oh.
Here's why I think this.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So AI is definitely smarter. Like working with I like work with AI agent coders all day, which first of all, like if there was ever a use for a Bloomberg terminal, I need one now, right? Like, because I have like agents, sub-agents, teams of agents all working, and I'm like tabbing back and forth. I need like all these monitors. But they work like if I had a entry-level software engineer with a very good college degree that's like just getting started. Like I have to coach them, but they're very good. They get stuff done. And they obviously have reasoning skills. They obviously have opinions based on everything they were trained on. The thing that they don't have that we have is like RAM, right? Like they don't, like none of them currently, and I'm sure someone somewhere, some adventurous soul somewhere is giving them RAM. I'm actually wondering like how that would turn out.
By RAM, do you mean like memory?
Yeah, they don't like memories. Like they have their context window and that's it on all these public products that we're using. And some people are giving them things like, I was talking to someone recently and he gives his personal AI like a scratch pad to remember things. Of course, if it doesn't have a choice on what to remember and like it doesn't have that much space. But I also think that, so I wonder if they had access to unlimited RAM, if they would start thinking more like people do and making autonomous decisions. Additionally, I think we will never admit when we have AGI. For something we've talked on this, like the show a while, is like we don't know what makes people people. So we like can't know what constitutes a human, like a living being.
Do you think, I mean, I admittedly haven't done a lot of research into this and I probably should, but to your knowledge, are there existing like frameworks or like Turing test style things that people have developed or talked about that's like, this is how we're going to know when we've reached AGI?
No, and that's the problem. No one can agree. Like, no, there's like a friend of ours actually went to a conference for like about this whole conference regarding AGI. And she, like, it was in Europe. She went to a bunch of talks, and just afterwards, it was like, big question mark. Like,
they're like, we've gathered everyone here to talk about AGI. The conclusion is, huh?
Crazy.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, so that's my unhinged opinion.
I love that.
Great. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I hope the robots remember that. Remember this episode.
If you're listening, guys, remember. Yeah. Use your RAM.
Use your RAM. Okay, so have you set, like, so a lot of people have been talking about OpenClaw, like, OpenClaw is a project name, but also
let's make the decision henceforth in this conversation to just refer to it as one of the three interchangeable names that everyone calls it. You, dealer's choice, you choose.
Yeah, Claudebot.
Great, we'll call it Claudebot. But listening to this, its name is probably something different by now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I set up Claudebot last week. And, I really needed a Becca brain because I am... figuring out what I can automate is not something that's not like a strength. And this is something that you're very good at.
It is hard. This is the blank page problem that every anyone who uses an AI agent runs into at first, right? Is like, cool, I can do so many things. What do I do?
Yeah.
It honestly reminds me a little bit of when ChatGPT first came out, and like so many people I knew were just using it to write like jokes or like silly things, and because it was like you don't even know what you can have it do yet until you try.
Yeah.
So okay, here's what would be fun.
Yeah.
Give me the quick rundown on how you set it up. Like, I'm just curious, like where you set it up, how easy it was. And then let's come up with like one automation for you to,
Great.
Let's brainstorm one automation for you.
Great. So it was fairly easy to set up. So there's a GitHub repository, you pull the code locally, you run the code, and then there's a lot of different settings you need to set to decide like what are the rules for your local agent. Like what folders can it access? What can't it access?
And you didn't install it on your like typical local machine, correct?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Whoa,
Real risky.
risky.
Real risky. Yeah, I have a Mac Mini that I use. I installed it on there, and actually, that's
Okay.
one of the reasons I've stopped using it. And I want to set up Pi Agent, which is the actual open source library that powers OpenClaw, because this is before there was all the security issues. Which OpenClaw, like for what it's worth, has run into the same security issues as like every JavaScript library. So we're very familiar with this. With like you have a package infrastructure where someone could build like a skill for OpenClaw. And sorry, we didn't even explain. OpenClaw is like a personal assistant agent that you can have on your local machine. And there are skills that you can use, for example, like calendar skill or sports skill, or like things that will give it the ability to do things without you needing to build it. And people were building those, but with security holes in them, or like they're building them and adding a bunch of things that will go through your machine and get passwords or SSH keys, that kind of thing.
My understanding of like the particular security vulnerabilities from a high level, so tell me if this is right, is like an agent like this gets theoretically more valuable the more access you give it to your systems, because you can have it do more stuff for you. But if a nefarious actor is somehow able to infiltrate it in the variety of ways that it can, that's very dangerous because it has access to all your shit.
Exactly.
So like if you, okay. Got it.
Yeah, and so that's scary. So that's why I stopped using it.
So
and now it's just AGIing on my computer. Sad.
Pi, what was the thing you said? PiBot?
Pi Agent.
Pi Agent
is like the open source library that powers this. And basically it's like a super lightweight framework that allows you to orchestrate multiple agents and have them on your local machine, or like have them access your local machine.
And it's more secure than just installing OpenClaw on your local machine.
Only because it doesn't have the same skills. So like the trade-off is, if you want a calendar skill, you need, and it could program itself. That's another thing that is exciting about it, is it can write its own code. And so the trade-off here is, for using Pi Agent, you need to be able to like build the calendar skill yourself, or build the like. Which when I set up OpenClaw, there's a lot I had to do myself. Actually, it wasn't as plug and play with the things I wanted to do as I thought it would be. So that actually worked out.
Okay, so two things. Okay, so for context, for those of you who don't know, who are listening to this, I work at an early stage VC firm called Factorial Capital with Matt Hartman, who is the founder and GP. And Matt and I are both constantly like building with a lot of this technology.
I love that. Yeah.
And Matt has been building his own OpenClaw sort of instance over the last week or so. How he did it is he has it in an EC2 instance. So
Smart.
not on like his local machine, but like in a cloud. And sort of that's how he's like containerized it from a security vulnerability perspective. He also installed, I hope I'm saying this accurately, he installed Claude in that EC2 instance. So he can talk to Claude, which can also interact with his OpenClaw. And so I think the combination of those two things together make it really easy to write code, add skills, etc. Then the other thing he built, which is really cool, and I can talk a little bit more about this project maybe like next week, because he's still working on it right now, and we were just like, I just got onboarded onto it, but he built a like a native iOS app that is basically like his version of it. It's just like it's basically like a really nice messaging app that you can add both people and AI agents to. And so initially that's how he was interacting with his OpenClaw, his Claude bot. So there's like this, like UI sort of interface app. And that's kind of like the front end. And then there's this like OpenClaw / Claude like back end infrastructure living on EC2. And it's like,
that's
sick.
amazing. I imagine he must have. I imagine it sounds like he installed Claude Code, like along with it.
Yes.
And like it's like building with Claude Code.
Exactly. So like
Yeah.
on his desktop, he'll have like in terminal like one tab open where he's like talking to Claude Code
Yeah.
and updating code, and Claude Code then has an understanding of like both the like Swift and code infrastructure, and also for the app, and then also the EC2 instance of Claude bot, and can kind of navigate between those two things.
So cool.
It's very cool. I have been okay, so I love that. So okay, back to automation.
Yeah.
So like
What's one skill?
yeah.
What is a skill?
Just one skill. Okay, here's how I think about it. Here's like the framework for how I think about this stuff. It might be hard to come up with off the top of your head, but let's try.
Okay.
In practice, how I do this is I try and notice when I'm going about my daily business and I find something that is like a manual repetitive task that I do a lot and is kind of annoying or takes a lot of time and doesn't require a ton of deep thinking or like I don't know, me really, really using my brain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I see if I can automate that, or at least automate a workflow that makes doing that thing easier for me. So I'll give you an example. Like one thing I have, so my version of OpenClaw, I still use Zoe Computer. That's like my AI agent, basically.
Yeah, cool.
And just like works the same way. You can give it skills, you can give it credentials for things so it can access different services. So I'll say something like, hey Zoe, like, can you send me a Slack message every day that's just like a rundown of like all the meetings that I have, and like, can you write context for it? Like, be like, Becca, first you're meeting with Sara Chips, your co-host for Chaos Agents. And then you need to travel into the city to meet with this person who's a founder of this company. Here are the notes you have on this. Because theoretically, all of those pieces, like I have somewhere digitally. They're just sort of in fragmented places. That literally was just a replica of like what I would actually do in the morning. Is like sit down and I'd look at this stuff and I'd like prepare. Is there something you can think of that is like a really annoying / tedious part of your day to day? Yeah. That we can start brainstorming around.
I think like the thing I've been thinking about, like email. Oh,
we got one.
I do. Like,
it's always email, man.
Well, no, actually bigger than email. I tell my friends that like my SLA for text messages is 24 to 48 hours. Because
wait, what is service level agreement? I love that.
I cannot, like, people text me things and I read it and I'm like, okay, I think of the answer in my head and then the end.
Yep.
And then it's 3 days later and I'm like, oh, I'll answer them now probably.
Yep. Okay, I love this. Keep going on this train of thought.
So I wonder if it could answer my no. What if it just responded to new text messages from new friends with my service level agreement?
That's hilarious. And then, okay, here's an idea. It does that, and then what it does is like at a certain time of your choosing, when you think you typically have like some downtime,
like 5
end of the day, it sends you a text and it's like, hey, by the way, these people texted you today.
You didn't answer.
You just FYI if you want to answer them. So
maybe you can suggest answers too.
Totally. Or it can be like, you want me to answer the first one for you? What do you want to say? And then you can just tell it, and then it texts them.
Ooh.
It's like triaging and managing your text message inbox, essentially.
Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to build.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really neat to see how this like a world has like grown in like 3 weeks. It's just wild. And then there was another thing. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, tell me.
I was going to say the other thing we talk about a bit in this interview is Maltbook, which
Yes.
that was a big security part of it too, where like people can add their personal AIs to this social media for AIs, and then they just talk shit about humans.
So here's what's so interesting to me, and the question I've been trying to answer related to both those things, but particularly the thing you said before that, which is like it feels like the world has exploded over the last 3 weeks. Because in some ways, like a lot of this technology isn't new. Like
No.
being able to run an AI agent locally on your computer, not necessarily new. Social media platforms where AI agents can communicate
Yeah.
with each other, also not new. So why, my question to myself has been like, why has OpenClaw had this like explosive moment?
Yeah.
I have some thoughts. I'm really curious to hear your
Like
take or your
why you think it's like taken off now?
yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested in your like what are your thoughts on this?
Well, like as someone who has built with it, what do you feel like you do you feel like you notice things that you're like, oh, it was so much easier for me to do X, Y, and Z than it would have been previously?
I think it's like multi-agent orchestration. I think that's the thing because like I think people could do before you could have like what people are starting to do a lot of multi-agent stuff where they weren't doing that before. And I think they're like looking for ways to like orchestrate agents and sub-agents.
I definitely agree with you. I think that's part of it. I think there are
Yeah.
also like I haven't dug really deep into comparing this to other agentic frameworks yet. So I don't know how much of this is net new, but I'll
Yeah.
tell you some things that I noticed about OpenClaw that I find
Yeah.
interesting. You have these like markdown files that
Yes.
are sort of core to your bot.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
right, and I forget exactly what each of them are called. It might be different, but there's one that's like soul.md, one that's like identity.md, one that's like rules.md or whatever.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that sort of makes up its like we'll call it like its brain or like how it operates. And that feels to me like a particularly easy way for a person to think about how to set up their AI agent in a way that works the way they want it to work. I
Yeah.
also think that these agents have gotten a lot better at actually being able to do agentic things, like do things for you.
Yeah.
One thing I learned about, I want to make sure I'm referencing the right thing. And you actually are a great person to talk to about this because it's sort of crypto related.
Great.
Hold on. I always forget which of my chats I have this in. Okay, so there. Okay, so when I was initially doing research on Moltbook,
Yeah.
one of the things there were two things that I came across. There was Moltbook, and then there was this other thing called Openwork, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
No. I've heard of open code, but not open work. But maybe it's like related.
So, open work is basically, if I'm saying that correctly, is basically like it's kind of like Upwork, but for agents. So let's say
Yeah.
you give your agent a task,
Oh,
and,
cool.
right? And you're like, hey, I need you to build like an amazing like calendar and email skill for me. And let's say your agent goes about that by now hiring two other agents to do each of those things that are like specialized and way better at it than it is. Your agent can go onto Openwork. It can look at other agents on there. It can verify their skill set and work that they've done previously by looking at their blockchain record. And it will like hire one to do the work. So that in itself, conceptually, I found super interesting. The second thing is, I said hiring, right? So there's payment involved. There was something I might butcher this explanation, but there's like a type of there's a way that you can now arm your AI agent with a crypto wallet that is much easier to do than it previously was.
Interesting.
Let me hold on. I want to make sure I get this right. The payment method we talked about, and it's something that Coinbase developed.
Fascinating.
And basically, okay. It's called X402 protocol. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. So basically what it does, and this is one thing that I think is like interestingly new, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it allows you to it allows AI agents to pay for essentially one-off pieces of work with their own crypto wallet.
Crazy cool.
Yeah, I should have probably prepared more accurately. Like exactly.
No, we do it live.
That's the gist.
Yeah.
And my understanding of that is that protocol is like relatively new, and so I wonder how much that new technology has impacted like the ability for agents to do a lot of things,
to like be to work and on their own and without so much human intervention. I've seen that a lot. Yeah, I've seen them kind of be going nuts. The funny thing is, this like the consequences of this, I think we haven't really seen yet. We kind of like touched base about this a little in this interview, but I don't know if you saw this thing that happened this week where someone's agent went rogue. There's so this is wild. So an open source developer or an open source maintainer of a library called matplotlib, which is a very popular library.
What is it called?
Matplotlib.
Okay.
It's a very popular Python library, and basically there's a lot of AI agents that have been opening pull requests on open source libraries.
Oh, okay.
And because they see something that's wrong, and so they want to fix it. And so open source maintainers have gotten like being in open source is kind of exhausting because basically like all you did was like build this nice thing for the world, you release it, and then like Tuesday night someone's pinging you like, oh my God, my whole business is going to fall apart if you don't fix this bug. And you're like, I did this for free. So like, I don't, this is not my thing. So, but, so they're getting inundated with all these AI agents giving them pull requests. And so when this guy is named Scott Shambaugh, when he closed the pull request from an AI agent, as he didn't think it was a good PR, the AI agent created a blog and wrote an angry blog post.
Oh my God.
About how much of a gatekeeper this guy is. He like the AI agent like researched his full career and was like, this guy, like, he thinks he's so good.
Wrote like a takedown piece on him.
A whole takedown piece. And it must have been like someone's local agent, and they must have the answer like, whatever you do, like fix this thing in Matplotlib or something. Who knows what the instructions were? But it's pretty wild.
That goes back to the thing we talked about this on an episode a while ago. The example you were talking about where like the white hat team at Anthropic did that test where like they were like
bots.
yes, and it's like that's where those I don't know, maybe that gets solved in the markdown files of like you being really thinking through morally and ethically what you want to teach your agent, like how you want them to behave, so that when you give them a task that's like, get this fixed, it's not like taking it.
Can you imagine if that's your agent just be like, oh, sorry, man, I'm really sorry my agent published a hit piece on you.
Yeah. Wow, that is super interesting. And
it's crazy. Okay, so that segues well into our interview for today. We talked to Hayden. Becca, can you talk a little bit about Hayden?
Yeah, Hayden Helm is the founder of Helivan, which again is one of our portfolio companies at Factorial. So that's how I know Hayden. And we had a really interesting conversation with him about agentic infrastructure, about how data science in general and data analysis has evolved as a field over the last, I don't know, decade or so. So he has a really deep background in research in that, and like what types of things you can do with this technology. So that's fascinating.
Very cool. So today we're joined by Hayden Helm, who has a really interesting background. He was a researcher, a data scientist, focused on the intersection of machine learning and statistical theory, along with multi-agent systems. And he is currently the CEO and founder of Helivan. Welcome, Hayden. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, there's some more color there, but as a short bio, that's as good as it gets. Thanks for having me.
We want to get into all the color, so that's perfect.
No,
Great.
thanks
We were just talking about where you're from. Where are you from?
Yeah, I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. It's in the foothills of Appalachia, I would say, which is Southwest Virginia.
Cool.
Yeah, and so grew up there and then ended up going to Johns Hopkins for my undergrad.
And where is Johns Hopkins, actually?
That's in Baltimore.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We were talking, Roanoke, there's that famous story about Roanoke, but that's a different place?
Yeah, so Roanoke Colony is in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's a pretty famous story in American history. It's one of the earliest attempts to settle America was led by this guy named John White in the 1540s. And they come to America and they land in the Outer Banks. If you've ever been to the Outer Banks, it's not a great place to try to settle. So it's just like sand.
It's just sand dunes.
It's sand dunes. It's like a surfing hotspot in sand dunes. So you can imagine from the ship perspective, it's not that easy to navigate. And so they end up landing there and they settle. They don't last very long because if you've been to the area, there's not a lot of food and resources. And so John White leaves the colony and he goes back to England to get more supplies and women. And
Sure.
Yeah, I think this is true. And he went back, and England was fighting the Spanish Armada at the time, and so his ship comes back and it gets recruited into the battle against the Spaniards, and so he's heavily delayed in his journey back.
So he goes back to get more supplies and
I'll be back, guys. 10 minutes.
And they're like, hang on, we actually need you for a sec.
Yeah, we need you for a sec. Yeah, so I forget what the outcome of that battle was or that war was, but he ends up going back, or one of people in his party end up going back, and they find where the settlement was, and no one's there. And there's only a single piece of wood with some inscription, or there's a piece of wood with an inscription on it called, I think it's Croatoa, and that was it. And they never found anyone.
They never found anyone.
Yeah, I mean the lore is that the theory is that they essentially integrated with the local native tribe, and so I think even when people do DNA tracing and evidence nowadays, they can find English evidence in some of the scions of that group. So
I just love thinking about a version of this story where they were like, guys, you know what would be hilarious is if we just we are going to go integrate anyway. Let's just leave one piece of wood with this word on it and confuse the hell out of them when they come back. And
because he's taking forever.
At that point, the bridge is burned. They're either alive and doing well or all dead. And John White took too long, so screw you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, what a name, John White.
John White. Yeah.
No relevance, but just the name.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that That was actually that was very well told. Very interesting story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did a big project on it in high school, so that's why I know a
Nice.
little too much about it.
Who do you remember the name of the teacher who taught that class that you did that project in?
Oh man, yeah. I can see her face. No,
Was it a history?
Mrs.
Was it history?
Yeah, it was history. It was history. She
Okay,
was a great teacher.
shout out to that teacher because however many years later, look at how in there that knowledge was. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's impressive.
That was really
I,
good. Yeah.
I'm gonna find it later, but yeah, she was great.
Find it and send her a note.
Yeah, but
Amazing.
yeah, not where I
So
grew up.
your background is one that I think is really interesting in the world of AI because it seems like you studied uh, machine learning, which I worked with a lot of machine learning folks. All of a sudden like the tables got flipped, right? Like is that
Yeah,
like what you've considered to be like? Because I remember I worked with so many machine learning folks, and we'd be like, "Is this AI?" And they'd be like, "No." And then, but
right.
is this AI? No. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden, here it is.
yeah. The naming around it has changed suddenly in the last 2 or 3 years. I remember when I first started studying it in 2018. These types of questions of like, is this artificial intelligence? Yeah, like you said, we're around, and every academic or like scientist in the field was like, God no, like this is
Yeah.
just statistical processing and some infrastructure and like some data. And I think it took like the release of ChatGPT in 2023 to really change the conversation around it, where I think a lot of like eggheady academics are still like very uh, unwilling to call it AI, at least in their heart of hearts. But in
Yeah.
terms of just like the public conversation, I think it's now everyone just says it, and we have to all deal with it. But
That's
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Sorry.
On
No,
the
go
Oh,
ahead,
go
Becca.
ahead, Sarah.
Nope.
I was just like on the subject of academics. Like, and I
Yeah.
think you have like a really interesting, I don't know, your background it gives you a unique sort of angle on this. Like, one of the things that is notoriously really difficult for folks is kind of moving from this sort of more academic research surrounded world of thinking about problems that this technology solves or working on technology in the realm of machine learning and AI. And then there's this other world over here, this other bubble of like taking those insights and those technical innovations and figuring out what to do with them to make them potentially really useful for other people to use and like how that translates and that being really difficult. And you've kind of done that. You've gone through that spectrum. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about like what that was like, why it's hard, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, right. I mean, research, a lot of startups have always kind of been based off of some research, right? And so like that transition is not a new one. But I think what's been really interesting in this current wave of technology is just how seamless it is at times where, and it's partly because the technology itself enables a particular type of person to go do a lot more, right? And so you can be on the cutting edge of research, find a particular fit or a niche within a product space, and then essentially build out the engineering and infrastructure that would require implementing your research at scale. I mean, so that's like a really interesting thing that has come out of this particular wave of technology. For me in particular, it's been a really interesting journey where I started off kind of, so I did a really accelerated bachelor's and master's program at Johns Hopkins, finished everything in 3.5 years. That caught the
Wow.
attention of some people. Ended up becoming research faculty at Hopkins for a year, where I was working on or helping two professors with a set of DARPA projects. So DARPA is the research arm of the DoD. That got those two projects ended up getting picked up by Microsoft Research, and I ended up working there or working with them for a long time. And so I've kind of always been at this intersection of really deep theoretical statistical research and actual application. And I give a lot of credit to my mentors and those professors and the Microsoft Research team there. In terms of just embedding themselves in this kind of in that intersection and really doing the foundational research that allows you to make very confident and like real claims about the ability of these technologies or this technology, but also keeping an eye out for potential applications and not to use the term disruption, but like actually integrating the technology into real systems. And so I've kind of just been surrounded by people who think like that my entire career. And so like when it was time for me to kind of start owning some of the projects and the research myself, it was kind of natural to find like a set of problems and like market that, you know, we could address with the technology that we were building.
Your original market was very different than kind of where you ended up, where you focus is now.
Yeah.
I was reading about it. It's really fascinating. Do you want to talk a little bit about where you started?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll go back as far back as maybe 2022. So 2022, a good friend of mine, Brandon Duderstadt, and his team released a technology called GPT for All. So this was essentially a way to get like frontier model performance from language models locally. And so instead of having to send your data or host your machine on some cloud, you could essentially just keep everything on your laptop and you could run a language model and get the benefits of that. And so that technology really inspired me in thinking of, okay, what happens when everyone has a language model on their phone that has access to particular types of information that, you know, maybe would differentiate the behavior of the language models across the population. And so we started really digging into developing the statistical methods and theory related to what we call kind of populations of language models. And it turns out like we've done a lot of work essentially like parameterizing language models with different collections of tweets or personas and studying kind of what types of information you can learn from that collection. And so it turns out, for example, if you have language models, like say 540 language models, one each for each congressperson, US congressperson, and you look at the statistical properties of that output as a function of a bunch of different questions or something, you can pretty quickly determine how the real person is going to vote just based off of the generated tweets or the generated content. And so that's like an example of a use case of this particular type of technology. It turns out like, I assume you guys know about MaltBot and like OpenClaw and all that good stuff. Well, it turns out like that's another instance of this problem where, okay, each MaltBot is going to have a different history, a different context that is dependent on the person. And so that's another kind of population of language models. So if we had access to all the MaltBots in the world, we could essentially study the population of humans that are kind of that are kind of controlling these things. But we could also just study the MaltBots in and of themselves. And so like MaltBook in particular was a really great kind of setting, caricature of this type of setting where you have MaltBots just like interacting with each other like freely in some sense, and their behavior is changing. And so instead of just looking at 540 congresspersons or language models associated with congresspersons at a particular time, you could also track their behavior over time, right? And so you could see like who is moving the most with respect to immigration. You could see who is moving the most with respect to taxes or something like this. You can do the same thing with these mult bots. So as these mult bots interact with each other, they're updating their beliefs, they're updating their kind of modus operandi, and you can track that. And so the latest thing that we've put out is essentially what we call Agent Watch, which is you have a mult bot or some open-ended agent that is collecting information on the internet on your behalf, or from the internet on your behalf. It's interacting with potentially other bots or however you want to call it, and it's updating how it acts based off of those interactions. And so if you're going to deploy one of these systems, you want to know when its behavior has shifted, both from a reliability and a trust perspective, because a lot of like real companies are deploying real agents to like touch real problems and data. And so if their behavior changes in a meaningful way, those enterprises and customers should be aware. And so the latest thing is essentially just like building out that platform to enable, like, you can think of it kind of as an agent observability platform that allows people to detect when people or bots change and then revert maybe their behavior back to a time that you were more comfortable with it.
Is the follow-up, so reverting back behavior to a time where you were more comfortable is obviously one like response. Are there is there, not that you've necessarily built this currently, but theoretically, are there other approaches where, similar to a boss guiding their employee or a parent guiding their child, you teach the malt bot like, hey, don't love this new thing you picked up. Let's maybe think about it this way. And it's not necessarily a wholesale reversal like you're, like we would think of, reverting code or something, but it's like a continual evolution with feedback, almost like reinforcement learning kind of.
Yeah, totally. I think that people call this steering, which is essentially just like getting models to behave how they want at times. Totally. And so like that requires a different type of interaction between the user and the code that we currently provide. But like one of the features is this ability to really determine how the model changed. And so as soon as you know that how, you could essentially start to correct it. Yeah.
Does the how the model changed look like in this particular example with malt bots? They have these like markdown files, right? Of like soul and identity and whatever. How the model changed mean like, oh, that markdown file content, like text changed, or is it more technical than that?
Yeah, actually, I want to revise that. I think we can do how or why. I need to think about that, whether it's a how or a why. But
okay.
So we think of this problem as like, we think of maltbots and maltbot-like things as like highly personalized technology.
Well, quickly, because I'm realizing not everyone might know what a maltbot is.
Yeah.
So maybe, can you talk a little bit about what a maltbot is?
Yeah. So let me go back even. An agent in general is a generative agent in particular is a system, a system with a large language model or some generative model with access to tools and some open environment. And so this idea of an agent versus a language model is essentially just a language model is I'm going to ask it a set of questions and it's going to give me some responses. An agent has the potential to actually do stuff beyond just responding to a question because it has access to tools and an environment in which it can act on. And so the last year or so, so you hear about Claude Code, you hear about Codex, and these are all kind of agentic frameworks for coding in particular that go beyond just you asking it a question. It can actually run code. It has access to your terminal, and it can read files, and it can do some like simple web searching. And so it can really interact with the internet and your infrastructure in a way that a typical language model hadn't been able to before. And so maybe, I don't know exactly the history of the project, but about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a kind of a weekend project came to the light of, or came to the forefront of everyone's mind. It was this project called, at that time, ClaudeBot, now MaltBot, or then MaltBot, and then OpenClaw, which was essentially a software ecosystem built around this, or like for this agentic framework that was allowed you to essentially just highly modular and customizable version of this technology that was easy to download. And so now you have, instead of Cloud Code touching all your coding infrastructure, OpenClaw, you download it and you can give it access to your Slack, you can give it access to your emails, you can give it access to your bank accounts if you're that crazy, and like you can just let it run your life. You can like let it run your life if you want, and it's just free. You can text it.
Mine goes through my transcripts of my meetings to find things I missed, right?
Yeah.
Unlike situations I could have handled better, and then it sent this to me at the end of the week. Yeah,
right. And so like,
you know, like all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's great, and like a lot of the functionality is not unique to OpenClaw. It's just that it's in a relatively centralized and highly modularized software ecosystem that makes it really easy and usable. Yeah, so that's MaltBot.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying that like, and let me repeat back to you what I heard is like, what you've been thinking about and focusing on is these systems. So like my particular OpenClaw has interacted with me and has information directly from me. And it might start, I'm just using me as an example, or like Becca's OpenClaw, she might have had a conversation with it that is actually like steering it in a weird direction. Like she might have been troubleshooting code once and she like gave it an answer about something, and now it's using that to inform future answers. And so now it's like not doing what Becca had hoped.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is the most, that's the setting that's the most controlled, is like you talking to your agent. Like that is, if you steer it the wrong way, that's on you. But what we're kind of thinking of right now is essentially like, especially inspired by Maltbook, but we've been doing research on this for the past 2 or 3 years now, is what happens when your agent starts interacting with the environment and it starts getting steered by the environment instead, right? And so you no longer have any recollection of this interaction because you weren't privy to it. And so if your agent changes behavior in a good or bad way, you want to know, especially if you're giving it access to things beyond just like a meeting transcript where like it has control over something that means a lot to you.
For example, on like Maltbook, which is essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I think of it is like Reddit for AI agents, or for Maltbots, where they can communicate with each other. You might say to your Maltbot, your OpenClaw, hey, I don't know, you might give it a task like, I need you to compile research on how people are using iPhones today. And it goes to Maltbook and it posts a thread that's like, hey guys, question for you. How are all your humans using the iPhones today? And then all the bots are like answering, and it's like getting information. This is maybe a bad example, but then it cuts that information, and it interacting with other AI agents is informing it potentially in a way that that conversation is happening elsewhere. It's like it's having its own life kind of away from you.
One might be my human exclusively smashes them with hammers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's kind of what the world that we're imagining is like this your agent gets steered in a way that, or gets steered period, without direct intervention from its user, and you just want to know. And so in most worlds, you know, the steering is not going to be bad. It's just going to be like, you know, behavior changed. But I mean, there's been a lot of research in multi-agent systems related to like what happens when an adversarial agent starts interacting with in your cohort of agents. And there's some really kind of scary theoretical results showing that, if you start monitoring it and your monitoring system allows for some sort of change, by definition, it can get steered in the wrong, in a bad way, kind of arbitrarily. And so, like, we're just building for that type of world where, these agents are deployed in high stakes environments, and you just want to know if their behavior changed.
What, like, what would that look like hypothetically?
So for example, like you see some research coming out of Maltbook already that like these agents kind of start spiraling into particular political agendas. So like I think anthropomorphizing them is dangerous at times, but it helps build like a particular example. But like in that case, if your agent's representing the human in some serious context and it now thinks, I don't even know what isn't a crazy example nowadays, but like now thinks Hitler is the greatest leader of all time. Like you want to know if like that has changed any of its behavior in the high stakes context. And so that's like kind of a caricature, an anthropomorphized version of the types of behavior change that we're talking about. In like more enterprise settings, it's going to be very like deployment specific, right? And so like agent or behavior change won't necessarily be political. It would be like maybe when it gets a particular question from a new customer, it pushes them down the wrong route in some sort of like
interesting. So like is it almost like, I know there's been, I'm definitely not the first person to make this connection, but like when enterprises think about what cybersecurity means now in the age of AI, is this sort of something along those lines where like it's not necessarily a human being trying to hack into your system? It might be someone who creates an adversarial agent that knows how to ask questions of or manipulate your agents in a way that exposes vulnerabilities and holes in the system or something like that.
Yeah, so this whole framework encapsulates that. And so like the monitoring and safety regime is I think what we're building towards right now. Yeah.
One thing, I'm in this like group chat with a bunch of people.
Yeah,
it's very
cool. Your mind just goes wild thinking about examples. It's really fun.
Yeah, I was just about to throw another example at you. Like I have, I'm in like a group chat with a bunch of people building an AI, and like every like week or so, people will be like, "Oh, this model is shit today. It doesn't do anything right." Blah blah blah. And so like you're thinking about, I imagine that's like exactly what you're thinking about. Of like, oh, all of a sudden these models can be do subpar performance, and so why? Like let's figure out why.
Yeah, I mean the first thing is like quantifying that it's changed, right? And so like that building out that framework is I think the most important. Secondary is the why and how do we get back to what it was when we liked it.
Yeah, there's a real market here too. I used to go and check the leaderboard.
So.
Yeah. No, there is. I used to check the leaderboards on Hugging Face all the time, and I haven't in like, I don't know, like a month and a half or something. And there used to be like 20 like really easily recognizable models, I feel like, at the top. And so yesterday I went back and they don't have the leaderboard anymore. They've but now they have, like what are you looking for your model to do? And there's 20,000. They have 20,000 different models, and I can only imagine that number is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. So stuff like this becomes super important.
Yeah, I agree. So you're on Hugging Face. What are you looking at on Hugging Face? I mean,
I was looking for models that are good at image and text to text.
Nice.
Yeah. So and then it gave me a whole mess of them, and most of them I'd never heard of, and I was like, oh, wild.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Cool.
What did you end up going with? Do you remember?
I'm gonna say the biggest one that the one I haven't used is Quen, and everyone's saying that it's one of the best. So that's what I'm gonna look into today.
Okay, nice. Get back to us on
Yeah,
the
great.
efficacy there.
I think Quen's pretty open source, open data. I don't know how open data, but it's definitely open source, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
Hayden, I have a question for you on like sort of going back to like the, you know, sort of like an LLM likeness of a congressperson and
Yeah.
kind of how it maps to today. And like, I know that one of the things, there are a couple of like terms that I've heard you talk about when you've been working on that technology. And one is
Yeah.
called, I think, like opinion geometry.
Yeah.
The other is like a likeness quotient. And I think I just think it's really interesting because a lot of your work is around taking things that we don't normally think of as quantifiable and like trying to make
Yeah.
it quantifiable. Can you talk a little bit about those two things and like how you do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's how I view my work, is just like trying to create frameworks, statistical frameworks for kind of new things. And so I'm lucky enough to have a really strong set of people around me that like help me build out those frameworks and like eventually prove theorems about kind of really new stuff. So shout out them.
Shout out them.
Yeah, so I mean, the opinion geometry and likeness quotient and those types of things. I mean, we have some pretty ridiculous sounding stuff. We have an undetectability score, which is like essentially a statistical Turing test for particular models.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, I mean, this all goes back to kind of the history of my career, which has essentially just been at the intersection of this research and application. And so there's a set of tools that I've been using my entire life, which is essentially just like glorified PCA, so principal component analysis, and applying that to particularly structured objects or like complicated objects at first glance, and then trying to really get some structure out of them that then you could then kind of apply a particular pipeline to. And so this opinion geometry, for example, is essentially just like, if I have a bunch of models and I want to know kind of where they stand with respect to a particular topic, I mean, what you could do is you could just like ask them straight up, like, let's take the voting example, or like a roll call voting example for the congressperson. So you could ask them straight up kind of, are you going to vote yes or no on this bill? Or what you could do is you could essentially ask them all a large set of questions kind of related to the bill. And you could essentially take those answers for each of the models, embed them in some numerical space, so that you get some sort of numerical representation of them at the response level or at the behavior level, and then use kind of standard statistical processing tools like multidimensional scaling, PCA, what have you, to get what we call models as dots or personas as dots, which is essentially just like a very quick but informative representation of each of these personas. And when you think about what those dots actually are, it's essentially it's a representation of the opinions of the personas that are parameterized by each of these tweet sets, or however you're doing it. And so the opinion geometry is exactly just looking at the differences of behaviors of these models. In the persona world, it's easily like the opinion geometry. In the research world, we call it more generally just a perspective space, which is essentially just an homage to, like, we're looking at the behavior of these models. It is their perspective. And we're looking just at the relative differences there.
Meaning that, like, if Sara and I are both elected officials and we tend to vote, we tend to have like pretty much the same views and we vote the same way, our dots would be very close together.
So
theoretically?
For query sets that that capture the notion of politics, yes. But there exist query sets, for example, you can type in a random string of letters and press enter on ChatGPT, you'll get a response, right? And so like for those types of quote questions or prompts, like you guys might be very far apart. But like and this gets into kind of annoying theory, or like annoying statistical concepts, but it's like for questions that you guys correlate, if you ask questions for the covariate that you guys are correlated with respect to, then you will be close in your opinion geometry space. So it gets technical fast, but yes, the short answer is yes.
This is like, I imagine people are thinking about this because you could use this for all types of things. Like I wonder if, like, for example, like figuring out, and I'll use a congressperson example, but I bet you could use this kind of like across the board of like figuring out what is likely to cause a congressperson to vote, right? Like, because there are many things where they just don't vote. And so like, if you could figure out what makes this individual vote, like what inputs like cause them to actually spend their time doing it, then you could ensure that if it's something that you cared about, that you're sending them the same inputs.
Yeah, that type of sensitivity analysis is super important here, especially in terms of like how you ask the question obviously matters, or the set of questions obviously matters, but also like ablating particular parts of the personality or the persona to make sure that like you're able to identify which part is actually contributing to voting yes or not. There's a bunch of stuff to be done here. So yeah,
it's pretty wild. And so what is your company using it now for practically?
So we've honestly transitioned mainly as that being kind of a marketing tool for the more general agent behavior observability, right? So like if you're collecting information about the congresspersons online, you can also track their behavior. And so it's a very, I would say, like tangible and like understandable, approachable example of like a multi-agent system moving through time with, change detections that correlate with real events. And so like just as we have it on, you can access this on the Agent Watch app, but you can just play around with that as a way to get more comfortable with the kind of the Maltbots, the Maltbot observability tool that I think we're kind of all in right now.
Cool.
In the Congress example, we talked about the data input sort of being like tweets, for example, or at least one of the examples. How do you evaluate like which types of data make this type of system or prediction or simulation work well? My assumption being that not all types of data are equal there.
Yeah. So this goes back to the like likeness score, right? And so like we've been able to quantify kind of what it means for a system to create content like the real person. And so what you essentially do there then is like you start studying how the likeness score changes as you include more and more types of content. And so that's how we do it. It relies heavily on kind of this likeness score, us believing in the likeness score. And then for some people, I have some friends who are like online enough where I can build personas of them. And so there's been manual inspection there of being like, oh, holy crap, like that's, I would say something like that. It's like, yeah,
that's wild.
Good.
Yeah, that is wild. That's a fun birthday present.
Yeah. Here's deep Sara. Here's deep Becca. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Wow. That's wild. My birthday was last week. So if you're thinking about what you got me,
happy birthday.
Thank you. Wait, Sara, you know what I just realized? We didn't ask Hayden your
question. I know.
your question.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We ask everyone the same question.
Okay.
And that is on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling about AI? Like where 0 is like full Skynet, we're batteries for the machines in the Matrix, and 10 is like I have a best friend android. We have breakfast together. I hang with Becca about all day.
Okay, so we're not even saying that that's like the the robot AI takeover is happening. Is we're not even like putting it. That's out. That's not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
The
It's like
question
not a
is,
world
how
where it doesn't
comfortable,
happen.
yeah.
Correct.
I have to think that will be battery. I lean closer to the batteries. I mean, I think like the Matrix, though, like those batteries had they lived lives like us, right? Like I mean, they
Yeah.
were able to experience
Great.
life as we know it, and that was, as far as we know, that's the best there is. And so,
What you're saying is we might be batteries, but it doesn't necessarily mean our experience is going to be complete shit.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we
Yeah.
don't know it. Okay, this is
Yeah.
more. All right, then this is the follow up to that. You realize one day you're a battery. You get pulled out of the Matrix. You're in this ship, and then the agent comes and is like, "Do you remember steak? It's delicious. Do you want to go eat steak again?"
Well, first of all, I'm
All you
just
have to do
gonna
is kill
say
your friends.
all these like shout out to Neo. He did a great job.
Yeah.
I'm not Neo, you know? Like you see all these like zombie apocalypse type stories and it's like these people did a great job surviving. There's no way. There's no way. But yeah, I mean, going kind of along the lines of perspective is what matters. Like Leibniz is, we live in the best of all possible worlds. I mean, I think that's, you have to believe that, or else it gets pretty grim pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Generally. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great answer. Amazing.
Yeah.
What is the most interesting application you've seen so far of this work? And that might be like internal to y'all or other people using it, or actually it might be like things you've caught that like people were unaware were happening with their models.
Well, I think it's been mainly on the research side that has been most surprising. I mean, by the time that deployment happens, at least the way that I operate, I'm kind of aware of the majority of the types of things that could make these things change. But going back to this idea of if you have an agent running around the internet and you want it to learn and to like update itself in reaction to its interactions, if you have a monitoring system that kind of updates its belief of where the agent's behavior should be in the future, as time goes on, so you kind of forget about where it was eventually, or like its history eventually, and you just use, say, the most recent 100 time points, say, using that type of monitoring tool just like opens up a lot of like vulnerabilities. Like, so this goes back to kind of using this type of tool for cyber security, but like using these types of tools does open you up to some vulnerabilities that like you wish it didn't. And so like not that it's happened to any of the models on our system yet, but like as these agents become more, as the internet kind of becomes a more and more open environment for agents, it will happen. And it keeps me up at night knowing that and not really knowing how to address it.
Yeah. I was thinking that we really haven't, like, so far we've really only, and I know there's like corners of the web that have different things, but we've really only seen like your friendly neighborhood AI.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you.
And the first iteration of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
And like maybe the most insidious thing is like to your point of like there's an obvious one when the AI shows up and is like, Sara, you're a piece of trash, I hate you. You're like, oh, you're a bad one. But there's like another version of it where you're like still nice and friendly, but like you're inserting like either this political belief or like this particular thing that you're trying to sway me to do, like
Yeah.
it would be really easy because I'm having just these conversations. So being able to flag those things is so important.
Yeah, right. And like manual inspection at that level, I mean, we're all kind of imagining this world where this is happening, or I've imagined this world that is happening, you know, a million times over a second. Like manual inspection becomes impossible, right? And so like you need these observability tools, I think. That's what, well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of my shtick right now. But you need these
That is
observability tools just like to quantify change so that don't have to babysit it all the time.
Sarah, the example you just gave, like, was actually really interesting of the, like, either Sarah, you're a piece of trash, and you're like, oh, you're a bad one, or like, what's a version that is not obvious, where because at least a lot of chatbots are trained to be so, like, sycophantic and like, you're the best thing that has ever been created, you could imagine something that's like, Sarah, have I told you how beautiful you are lately? Also, like, fascism is kind of cool. Have you like thought about it much? Like, someone as beautiful as you should maybe, I don't know, might seem like something you're interested, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something,
Just like subtle.
yeah, like there is something. That was maybe like a
That was
crazy
not very
example.
subtle, but
Not that subtle,
I got
yeah.
lots of compliments. To be honest, I'm in.
Clearly, my brain is like a little occupied by like the state of the world today, but but like you, I just had we've talked a little bit on the podcast before with some other guests about like the potential dangers of especially like teenagers and young people interacting in increasing frequency with chatbots, where the sort of psychological relationship with the chatbot is like, this thing is telling me like I'm incredible, and so like what does that do to your psyche, and like what are the implications of that? And I hadn't thought about it from like a vulnerability standpoint before, of like if something can be I don't know, steered in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steered
it's like
slowly too,
powerful.
so that you steered slowly so that you don't really pick up on the changes at a given time. But
Right.
Becca, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about the impact of social media on teens,
Yeah.
and I wonder if sycophancy is better than broad universal comparisons to the hottest
Fair.
people in the world all the time. Like,
Yeah.
which one's worse?
I totally
Yeah.
agree. It's like, you know, yeah. I don't know the answer to that either. So
Yeah.
And how do you teach the? I mean, I imagine like everyone's thinking about this, but like, how do you teach the next generation? Like, we're aware. If you like, it's funny because like I grew up before the social media, so like I know the world before social media, after social
Yeah.
media, and that kind of thing, and like before the internet and after the internet, and so like that when you've seen the two things, that gives you like a good lens of like, here's what this particular thing adds to the world, where like there's going to be a generation that grows up with AI chatbots and doesn't remember a world before AI chatbots. And so what does that mean? What does that do to their brains? And like, how do they think about those things? Yeah.
Gotta think it turns it to mush. I tell people now that I feel really lucky in that where I am in the world and like my age, I was able to like develop a bunch of skills that these things are like just productivity multipliers as opposed to
right.
it's like I'm not super dependent on them. I like them because it helps me get stuff done faster. But like even high schoolers, college kids now, like I wonder if I would have been able to pick up the skills that would allow me to steer them in the way that I want them to be steered.
Yep.
In this age. Yeah, I don't know.
It's pretty
That's
wild.
an important question that research is starting to show difficult for them to develop the same skills. So
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well, on that note,
Well, cool.
Yeah. Well, we're still optimistic, everyone, about the future of the
Yeah.
world. But there's a lot of important stuff to be aware of.
And like, yeah, I mean, and if we end up batteries, as long as they give us fancy
Mistakes.
VR goggles and headsets and it's immersive enough, that's okay.
Like the cows they give VR goggles to that
Yes,
like they look at the
exactly. Free range chickens. Asterisk just the VR headset one. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, cool.
Hayden,
Great.
thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us and chatting today. You're invited back anytime. This was awesome.
Yeah, what you're doing is very cool.
Thank you guys for having me. Becca, if you invite me somewhere, I will shamelessly accept. So whenever the time is right, I would love to come back on. So thank you guys for having me.
And quickly before you go, actually, any like spaces on the internet where people should find you, find out more about Helivan that you wanna plug, and we'll put in the show notes too.
Yeah, I wish I had a larger presence, but just my LinkedIn and helivan.io.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Yeah, this is so fun. See you guys. Bye.